Okay, here we are.
Here we are.
Got my notes.
Ain't you professional?
I'll try to be professional. Okay, welcome everybody. Cosimo, everybody.
Nice to meet you all. I guess.
Cosimo is a friend of mine here in Perugia, and he's an interesting guy. So that's why I wanted to have you on. You're the first guest on this yet to be named podcast.
Well, this is an incredible honor. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming, really. So basically with this podcast, it's all going to be around the topics of Italy culture, travel in Italy, but I'm trying to show people Italy instead of just showing everybody like what you see on Instagram, like the pretty stuff to see in Italy and all the sites and of course all the food and everything. Like, what is it like for people that I'm lucky enough to know that either are other expats like myself, or just other people who moved here, or Italians who all have a different perspective beyond what everybody understands or thinks they understand. And you've also lived outside of Italy, so you have some different perspective to bring to the table. Also, you're multilingual and you speak better English than me, and so you have just a lot to. No, it's true. So, just to get started, tell me and the viewers where you're from.
I'm from Perugia. Which is this mid-sized Italian city north of Rome, southeast of Florence. A lovely place to be born and raised in. It gets a bit boring when you're in your 30s, but
Okay, so
well, I see them. It can be a bit repetitive. Now, granted, that's not the reason why I'm moving.
which we'll get to.
Which we'll get to. I'm moving because of job opportunities, which is a broader problem when it comes to Italy, and the fact that Italy, to keep it short, the Italian economy has had some long-standing structural issues, such as over-reliance on not very productive sectors of the economy, short-sighted entrepreneurial culture, and these factors, coupled with others that the experts will be able to explain much better than I can, have led to comparatively low wages when it comes to Western Europe. And as a result, many young educated Italians may not be satisfied with the job market here. And the freedom of movement in Europe has made the opportunity of working abroad very alluring for many. So the problem with Perugia is that, well, at least for, like, I studied law, comparative law, and
What kind of law?
comparative law.
Comparative law.
Comparative public law. I could go into details, but then I think it would be very boring if you're not one of us special kids.
Sure.
Spoiler, I'm going to do a traineeship in Brussels at the European Commission.
Okay.
And later, I'd like to go. It depends. I'd love to work in a place where I get a stable and well-paid job.
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't? Who wouldn't?
Sure.
But I also love my country a lot. Like I love my city. I love my loved ones are here.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind meeting new people. Matter of fact, as you know, I'm single, so I'd love to meet some new people.
Announcement. He is saying, look out, Brussels.
But I wouldn't mind importing a lover one day. Like,
Importing.
I can make import from outside. Why not? If that's possible. At any time.
Well, okay, so, all right, backing up a little bit. You're from Perugia. You have lived elsewhere. Where else have you lived outside of Italy?
Madrid and London during my studies for brief periods of time. Madrid during my master's degree, and London during my PhD. This was respectively in 2017 and 2022.
Okay.
And those were really, really satisfying experiences for me, especially the one in Madrid. The thing with those places, those are places that I would live in, but they're not necessarily super representative of those countries, as in those are both big cities. And just to give you an example, in London, you could not go a day in central London walking down the street without hearing someone speak Italian.
Okay.
So you can, those are places where you can very easily, I don't want to say isolate yourself, but just live within an expat bubble if you really want to.
When I was in London, I noticed there were a lot of Italian expats who opened up businesses there, and so it's common for people to go to a big city like London and find their fruit.
Well, because
It's like here with Americans in Florence, they just only talk to other Americans.
yeah, generally people just move where there are more job opportunities,
Sure.
which in England is London, in Spain is Madrid, Barcelona, and then another like few select cities.
Okay.
No, those are like, I remember Spain. Spain is really like its culture is similar to Italy, mainly because, well, the influence of the Catholic Church and just simple geographical proximity. But both Spain and Italy are very dishomogeneous country. I don't know if I stressed the right syllable there, but
Dishomogeneous.
dishomogeneous country.
I learned more English speaking with Cosimo than with other Americans, but go on.
Homogeneous country, so your experience may vary significantly. Like, I have friends, Italian friends, who have lived in both Santiago de Compostela, in Galicia, like just north of Portugal, if you're not familiar, and Valencia, which is on the other side of the country. And their experience with people there has been varied significantly. And again, I was saying, my experience of life in Spain is Madrid, which is like a big city. And I don't want to say the big cities all look alike or similar, but in a way they are.
Madrid is great, though.
Madrid is really great. I would, if I got like a well-paid job in Madrid, I would seriously consider moving there.
Would you prefer to live in Madrid over London? If money, take money out of it,
because London is much more expensive.
Sure.
Madrid over London. Probably Madrid. I left a piece of my heart in Madrid.
Yeah.
Years ago. Let's say Madrid. I'm going to like give into to the stereotype of Mediterraneans wanting to stick with other Mediterraneans.
But you speak Spanish as well.
I do.
Did you study that before moving to Madrid?
I studied it a bit, like 3 months before moving to Madrid. And then I just had to learn how to swim when I was there, I know, in order not to drown.
Sure.
And yeah, I speak a decent Spanish. I understand it almost perfectly. I just haven't practiced it in a long time. But I think it's the kind of thing, it's like riding a bike. If I go back 2 weeks, then I'm probably going to be fluent in no time. That sounded very, very pretentious.
No, I mean, it wouldn't take that much. I mean, just a couple weeks. It's not. You can speak to this more than I do, but they talk about how Spanish and Italian are so similar that if you can pick one up, you can pick up the other. And obviously there's a lot of differences, but given that you have a good foundation of Spanish and your Italian, I think you could pick it up.
I mean, it's easier if one of the two is your mother tongue.
Yes.
Because I've met many Americans who have studied a little bit of Spanish in the US, then they move here and they tend to mix the two a lot.
I did that. So
the fact that they're similar can be like a double-edged sword if you're not very, very like good at languages. But fear not, Americans. You can survive here.
Yeah.
Even if you slip in some Spanish words every now and then.
Yeah, you can get by, but you should try not to let the Spanish take over the Italian too much. Eventually, you have to adapt to the Italian, but you'll be fine on a vacation. It's going to make a difference. Okay, so you lived in London, Madrid.
By the way, some Italians might get offended if you come here and just try and speak Spanish to them.
Yeah. If you do it on accident, it's okay. But if you just do it with the intent on them understanding you, I've seen that. They're like, just speak to me in English. They'd rather you speak to them in English than Spanish at that point, unless you're from Spain. But that's another thing. Okay, so you are leaving Italy, at least for now, for a trainingship, an internship of sorts in Brussels.
Yes.
Do you see yourself I mean, you kind of already alluded to that. You would like to import a lover. Do you see yourself coming back to Italy? It sounds like you do one day.
Well, yes. Again, my loved ones are here. All my friends are here,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we talked about this before, off camera, of course. But after a certain age, making new friends gets increasingly harder, and it took a while to get the ones I have now. So it's, I mean, I have many friends who live abroad, and they come back periodically, and we haven't lost contact with them, so it's doable. Everything's doable, and a good paycheck will make me capable of withstanding prolonged separation from my friends. But maybe, and I am more than I would like to admit, a stereotypical Italian who loves the Northern European weather.
I thought you were going to say loathes the Northern Europeans.
No,
No, I don't know any Italians who do that, but the weather, yes.
I can take the cold. It's just the perennial rain near the, like, on the Atlantic coast that just breaks my.
So, okay, what do you think you'll find in Brussels other than a job, which you already have lined up? What do you think you'll find that you haven't found in Italy?
What will I find in Brussels? Uh, Ideally, like a dynamic environment filled with young people, or not only, but I expect most of them to have goals, to be very motivated, to inspire me, maybe. I'd love to, like, just go there and rediscover a passion for life, for what I do, for putting myself out there. I just need, like, I think Brussels can be a good place for a fresh start if you're a young man. And you're at that point in your life when, okay, you're done with your studies and you just need direction.
Yeah.
I think Brussels offers many paths. So, yeah, that's cautiously optimistic, I'd say.
Do you see a difference between the Italians that you know that have chosen to stay in Italy and never done an experience abroad versus the ones who've moved abroad? Do you see kind of a difference in what they're looking for out of life, their ambitions, their priorities, I guess? Or is it just a means? Is it like if people have the means to leave Italy, they do?
Well, many of my friends I'm very lucky. Like, I'm not wealthy. I'm well off. Well, enough as to, like, have traveled, and most of my friends have had the same opportunities I've had. I know a few who have always never moved from Perugia. I know a few who have, like, lived in various places in Italy and then moved back to Perugia. It does give you perspective, of course. Sometimes you see what's out there and you still decide that you want to live here, and that's absolutely valid. There are some people who are, I have a friend of mine, she does marketing, and in time I tried suggesting to her, they're suggesting that she, like, try something in the European level, international, because she's talented, and she just told me that no, she wants to live here, she's content. Sure, there are a couple of things that she'd want to fix in her life, but she was not interested. She had found her peace here, and honestly, if you're telling me you're happy with your life, then who am I to tell you no? You should, like, uproot your life. You should, like, move 1,000 kilometers from your home, leave your loved ones behind just to pursue my dream. No, of course you can. So it really depends on what kind of person you are, what kind of what you're looking for in life.
Yeah.
Are you looking for, like, the simple I don't want to, like, paint this idyllic countryside image, but
under the Tuscan sun,
yeah, sipping wine and making love.
Making love with somebody playing the mandolin outside the window. Yeah, all that. You could choose that. It does exist. not really, but
If you don't have to work for a living, then sure. No, again, I just needed a new stimulus. Again, if I get the opportunity to come back to Italy when I'm in a different headspace, and maybe the country is doing a little bit better, I wouldn't like. I'm not one of those people who just wants to flee. Like I'm not. Oh my God, I hate it here. I need to go or I'll go crazy. No, I feel like I would be great for me to go abroad for a time and maybe again explore some new paths. Unlock new opportunities.
sure.
Sorry, it sounds like I'm giving a motivational speech.
No, it's really getting me hyped up. So speaking of like jobs in Italy, for people, because I talk to and I like with my website and with the citizenship company, always talking and learning about people with aspirations of coming to Italy. If you were talking to somebody, say, our age who wanted to come to Italy, what expectations should they have for jobs? Never mind, like, the culture and the food and language, okay. But if they have to come and they have to make a living, they're not like retiring, they're not independently wealthy, they need to come and support themselves. What should they expect?
So, well, of course, it depends on like what your studies were, like what your expertise is. Of course, there are areas of the country where the job market is a little healthier, a little there's more offers. Especially in the north or in Rome. Of course, it's always the big cities. Again, on but there are entrepreneurial opportunities even outside of those big cities. Again, it depends if you don't want to be an entrepreneur and you want to like work for a company. Well, there are a number of companies. I know a bunch of Americans work here remotely for or American or British companies, or even German companies. The only thing is that most of them probably need to have like a another headquarters, but like a legal
Well, they would need a visa.
no, they need to have like to be based legally in the European Union, because otherwise most US companies will complain about taxes and the respect of labor legislation.
Sure. So
here.
to have an existing business presence in Europe or Italy.
Ideally, yes. And if you want to work for an Italian employer, of course, that's possible if you're a citizen. Even if you're not a citizen, but I mean, you'll tell your audience about the bureaucracy.
Assuming you're working legally, whether it's a visa or if you're a citizen.
Of course. Again, especially if you're a foreign professional, an educated foreign professional, there are job opportunities for you. Wages are on average lower than the rest of Western Europe, but again, that's an average. So if you're an experienced professional or sometimes just a foreign professional, your connection with a foreign country may be an asset. There are many Italian companies who do a lot of export towards the United States. Well, we'll see how that goes now with the tariffs. So there's always for people who know where to look, and for people who are resourceful, there's like you say that in English, like a margin of movement. There's room
Sure.
to there's room to move. There's room to find interesting opportunities. That's it.
Yeah.
Again, you need to know where to look, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't. There's no point in, and I say this to my Italian friends as well. There's no point in succumbing to this extreme pessimism. After all, as rhetorical as it may sound, things can only change if you believe that they can. So that's why I'm not one of those people who have given up on Italy, and you shouldn't either.
Smile for the camera, glisten in your teeth. You shouldn't. Yeah, I tell people that they should set expectations for the salary because, for example, the median income in Italy is half of what it is in the US. Now, the cost of living is also less.
Yeah.
But they need to have expectations. Also, the level of consumption. If you're going to come from the US and live in Italy and expect to maintain the same level of high consumption that we're used to in the US, an Italian salary, you'll struggle with that. And it's just kind of not one of the nice things about Italy is a lot of the simplicity of the lifestyle. It's not about owning, a 3-car garage.
No. Of course, when I talk about wages, you need to adjust it for purchasing power parity.
Yes.
But still, it could be higher. Wages could be a little higher. And then, yeah, of course, if you're coming to Italy, I hope you're coming. I hope you know like the vibe of what you're going to encounter. Like it's not there are places like that, but it's not the American suburbia. Don't expect to find that, please.
No, we don't want that here.
Okay. No, I mean it's also we don't want that. We don't want that here, and you're unlikely to find it.
So on the note of people coming to Italy, again, in the space that I work in, especially with travel, and I spend a lot of time on Reddit with people looking to move to Italy or travel to Italy, and everybody has 1,000 different concerns or questions about their first trip to Italy. It's like, do I have to tip? Do people tip in Italy? What's all these little specifics. One thing that I see a lot that I can't speak to is what is the experience for the LGBT community, LGBTQ. I don't know where it ends, but the gay community, I'll say. There's a lot of
the queers.
The queers.
Queers.
What's it like for the queers either wanting to move to Italy or travel, which are two different things? Some of them think like, I see on the news, it's a very right-wing government in Italy. It's a country with a lot of tradition. Are there things that I, as a gay person, need to be concerned about if I'm traveling or moving to Italy, which again are two different things? I would say my gut is, as a tourist, just go enjoy yourself. But again, I don't have that first person perspective. Living in Italy, especially living in a smaller town like we're in now, has its own.
Well, Perugia, if I can, like the shameless plug for my hometown.
Yeah.
Perugia, for its size, it's really open, like it's really accepting, and it's Swiss in Italian, it's an oasis of happiness.
Okay.
Oh,
I've never heard that.
Again, for a city of its size, it has roughly 150,000 inhabitants, so it's not a big city, but there is a vibrant LGBTQ community here, and if you're traveling through Italy, well, of course, you might have heard about like Milan and the big cities. In truth, there is the roughly the same urban-rural cleavage. Cleavage, is that a word? The urban-rural cleavage?
Yeah, most people use that when referring to women's breasts, but technically, yeah, or divide.
Okay, the rural divide that you might encounter in the United States. It's really not that different. And so even if you're in the north, if you're in the northern countryside, well, I don't want to say beware, because it's not that bad most of the time. But of course, you're not going to find people as open-minded. But that's just, again, just like in the US, it's a matter of lack of exposure. So if you you shouldn't be afraid.
It's like in the US, for Americans listening, rural Maine and rural Alabama, I've been to both. It's the same people, just different accents. They think it's not because you go into the north and the northeast of the US, it's this like liberal utopia. It's an urban rural thing. That's kind of pretty much what it comes down to. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's just that. Of course, if you're looking to find a partner, you have better chances in big cities because it's a game of numbers.
Yeah.
If you're only looking for one partner, then just go where there are more people. So there's that. You just use the same caution you'd use anywhere else that you're not familiar with. Any other place that you're not familiar with. And as far as the government concerned, well,
we don't have
how much time do we have Well, governments change. Governments come and go. And
I would invite my guests to be as opinionated as they want, but I will withhold mine for now. It's the same thing in the U.S., regardless of who is in power. On the ground, I don't see that big of differences now versus 2 years ago versus 4 years ago. And I would expect the same thing maybe here, that like if somebody is gay and they're coming to Italy, I don't think they should fear for their safety any more than they would in another country.
anti-discrimination laws do exist. And my experience was never negative. Like I was never, if you exclude like some bullying in school 15 years ago, it wasn't that bad. And I was never like called names on the street. Thank God I was never beaten. And so I've heard of people who had it worse than me, but again, you shouldn't feel like your life is in danger if you're a non-cis het person in Italy.
Okay, there you go. You heard it from Cosimo. Now Reddit can stop talking about this and move on. I want people to be able to just go to Italy. And
is this a big thing?
It's not a big thing. No, I'm exaggerating, but it is a thing. It's a concern that I see a lot of people ask. People ask that as well. I see a lot of Asians asking this, like, is it safe? I hear there's a lot of racism in Italy. Am I going to be okay as a Chinese person? And my answer is like, yes.
Yes. Especially if you're a paying tourist.
If you're a paying tourist, exactly. If somebody's gay and they want to move to Italy,
you consider
what? No, tell me.
There are a lot of tops here, in case you're interested. You always read on Twitter that from what I read, it looks like in America there's a shortage of tops. So like,
oh, I want to post that so much.
You can like put it in that 2-second segment, like the bloopers at the end. There's a shortage of. There.
Okay, so there's that. If somebody was gay and they wanted to move to Italy and they said, give me 5 cities I should consider living in. Maybe 5 is too much, but
well,
for me, I think Milan, Bologna, maybe Rome.
Well, Rome is really big, so yeah, it depends where exactly in Rome, but yeah, of course Rome is an option. Naples is not an obvious choice, but still one I'd advise. Naples require a bit of adjustment
for everybody.
Exactly. So it's not just if you're queer, but it's an interesting place. And if you look up Femminile, you'll see there's like an interesting proto-queer tradition there.
Femminile, okay.
So there's something there. And also Palermo is where they had the first Pride Parade. They held the first Pride Parade in Italy.
Really?
Yes, I think it was the 90s or the late 80s.
That is shocking. I love Palermo, but that seems, I would expect Milan.
No, Palermo, but yes, Sicily as a whole is a place full of contradictions. But Palermo has a long history of LGBTQ activism, so that's an option. And of course, Perugia.
Of course, Perugia. Do you think
6? But
yeah, that's fine. Do we want more expats in Perugia? And by we, I mean you, as somebody from here. And you can be honest, even though one.
So we have due to declining birth rates, I'd say yes, of course. Come in. What's the expression? Come in.
One, come all.
No, come in.
Procreate.
That's the Bible. You say come in numbers.
Oh yeah.
Numbers.
Yeah.
Just. Especially if you want to come here like to work, to like add to the wealth of the city, be our guest, literally.
But don't come here and buy up property and turn it into an Airbnb.
No, we don't want that.
We don't want that. Because locals need to afford to live here.
buy a property and actually live here, that's great. Absolutely. I encourage you to do it. But just again, don't turn your property into a vacation home that you're only in for like 2 months during the year, because that's a great recipe for turning Perugia into like a ghost town.
Yeah, it's gonna be a place that lacks culture and has no identity of its own, kind of like Florence. I love Florence,
Yes,
but it's
it's all Americans and Florentines, and I can't tell which is worse. Kidding.
that's funny.
When it comes to the Americans,
I don't meet
Florentine.
I don't meet Florentines when I go to Florence. Where are they? They're not there.
Well, they're not
Afford to live there.
not in the city center.
Yeah.
They're not. They're except the very, very ancient, wealthy families of Florence, and they're the same.
They don't talk to me.
They've been the same since the 15th century, I think. No, if you want to like meet it with actual Florentines, you need to go into exit the city center and outside of the old city walls. Then there's actual locals, but why would you want to meet them?
They're worse than Perugini. That's considerable. Okay.
Foul breed.
What Italians, what region or city has your favorite brand of Italian besides Perugia?
Uh, my favorite brand,
Like whether it's the way they talk, you like their accent, you like their values, you like the way they carry themselves.
probably the people from Veneto, here in northeastern Italy, where Venice, Padua, Verona are. And I don't know how, but I ended up with a a number of friends from Veneto, and they're all really, they're not, they take some adjustment, but once you once you actually like start vibing with them, they're really, really cool people. And they have an unmistakable accent. So if you run into one, like you'll know when you're in the presence of someone from Veneto.
Yeah, we have a few here. They're very vulgar.
They're not very vulgar. I mean, Veneto used to be called like the Northern South,
Okay.
because it was still pretty rural up until like, it was one of the parts of northern Italy that industrialized relatively later than say Lombardy, and you can kind of tell there's still like it's one of the places where the urban rural divide is really strong. So with a approach the region with a grain of salt, but I haven't had any bad experiences when I was there. And if you don't include the terrible climate in the Po River Valley, you can do about that.
It's not as bad as London.
It's worse.
It's worse.
It's because for those of you who don't know, the Po River Valley is that plain between the Alps and the Apennines, where like the winds blow from the east, and then they're just trapped there. So it's a bit polluted, and it's wet and foggy during the winter, and hot during the summer, and again very, very humid. So, and that's where Milan, Turin, Venice are. So again, come to Perugia if you don't. Also Bologna. So like, come to Perugia, come to Rome. Don't waste your time there.
You can visit.
You can visit, yeah.
Yeah, Perugia.
The people are nice.
I haven't had any experiences in Italy of people not being generally nice. There's rude people, especially when Italians talk on the phone. They're assholes. But other than that, I haven't been anywhere in Italy where I felt like everybody here is rude. Some people say that about Milan, but I haven't had that experience.
Well, that's because you're tall and handsome. People are always nice to you.
Go on.
Well, but Are you asking me to think of like,
Yeah, who do you not like in Italy?
oh, the root is God, I'll be canceled for this.
You're leaving Italy anyways.
Sure. Oh well,
The feeling,
I've already talked about this. Yeah, the Tuscans. It's
yeah,
obviously the Tuscans. Well, the Florentines specifically, because there's a great variety within Tuscany. There's various degrees of how unbearable their accents can be. Florence at the top, and like other places, you, when the revolution comes, you'll be spared. Kidding. Yeah, I'd say that it has come, but it's also because like they're next door to us,
sure.
and you always tend to develop a rivalry with your neighbors, not with people far away from you.
What is that about Italy where like Perugia and Terni, they hate each other? It's always like neighboring.
Well, that's mostly because during the Middle Ages we were at war.
Yeah, that was a long time ago though.
So like, well, Terni, like they were like under the jurisdiction of the province of Perugia for a number of years, so they fought hard to get their own province, kind of like a county. And then we were like the regional capital, and they've always had. Also, in the case of Terni and Perugia, you have two polar opposites. You have a city on a hilltop and a city at the bottom of a valley, sort of, and with different development models, different economies, and an undying rivalry. Sorry, I can speak.
True. I find that amazing that Italy has that. I mean, that from here to Terni, it's like, it's not far. It's like an hour by car.
No, and also we have a strong rivalry with people from the Marches, the next region over. Well, historically because we're separated by the Apennines, but apparently, from what I've heard, it's also because when we were Umbria and the Marches were both under the Papal States, when the Pope used to be an actual king with actual territory, and a number of like tax collectors came from the Marches, so that's why they were widely hated.
Okay.
So this is Italy is a fascinating story, fascinating history. Sorry, it's even beyond the Roman Empire. The part like beyond the Roman Empire, the Middle Ages are much more documented in detail. So there's if you're into that kind of stuff, there's a lot of incredibly funny and stupid stuff in Italian history that you can discover.
If you could recommend either a movie or a series or like a YouTube video that kind of semi-documents some of this, do you know of any, or books for those of us?
Oh God, I mean there are like history books made by uh actual historians. So, read something by Alessandro Barbero.
Alessandro Barbero.
Barbero,
Okay.
an historian specialized in the Middle Ages, and it's really good. It's really popular in Italy. And if you start learning Italian, then you can like watch his YouTube videos. It's really good. He's a really skilled public speaker. Just don't pick up his Piemontese accent, please.
I don't even know what a Piemontese accent is.
Trust me, it has a bit of a French R,
Okay.
and then and it's a bit nasal. It's not influx, the
That's influence. Okay.
influence of French.
That makes sense. How is your French coming? You're brushing up on French in preparation for your move to Brussels, or are you not?
I need to actually like dedicate some more time to my study of French. I studied in middle school. I'm sure I'll master it again. I'm just not very passionate about studying French at the moment, but I'll get there. Mon ami.
Like, vediamo, like,
No, that's my friend in French.
oh, French is not my second or 10th language, so. Well, I'm excited for you to go to Brussels. I'm gonna come visit you.
Do come.
I've been once before, to see a friend. It's a really cool city. I can see the appeal. It's very much a place to go find opportunity, meet people, learn French, drink beer, very strong beer that you have to watch out for.
If you're into like waffles, that's where they're from. If you're into French fries, that's actually where they're from, not France, the French-speaking part of Belgium.
There you go.
Oh.
What else happened in Belgium? Django Reinhardt was born in Belgium.
The Battle of Waterloo.
Battle of Waterloo.
Yeah, Waterloo is actually not far from Brussels.
Oh. Okay.
And what else? Not much. There's the headquarters of NATO, but I don't see why you want to visit that. What else is there in Belgium? There's a coastline and like a tram that runs the whole coastline. Yeah, it's a cute.
What's
cute,
amazing
cute.
about being in Europe, and even here in the small town of Perugia, we have an airport where we can fly, and you will. We can fly directly from here to Brussels. Not exactly Brussels, it's a nearby
Charleroi.
Yes, that one. And it's amazing. It's just, it's so easy to get around here. So for those of you who were already interested in coming to Europe, that's just yet another reason to do it. And not even just Perugia, anywhere. Even if you live in Sicily, you could fly from Palermo to pretty much anywhere in Europe, I think.
Yes, and they're in recent times they've done some works on the railway network, which is improving slowly but steadily.
In Italy,
In Italy, yeah. So there's multiple ways to get around.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to buy a car.
Like me.
Like
and our friend Andreas, he'll be on this at some point. I don't know when I'm going to post this. This will probably be the first one, since we already said at the beginning. You're the yes, it only makes sense. Kind of boxed in. Anything else you want to talk about?
I'm so glad that you've chosen me to be your first guest.
I'm happy to have you. You're one of the most interesting people I've met, and happy to have you on. So excited for you in Brussels. I'm going to miss you. We'll all miss you. But we'll just have to all do a big group trip to come find you.
I'll be waiting.
That'd be great. We should propose that to the group. Thanks, Cosimo.
Thank you for having me.